Less than a week ago, it was all smiles. The road to recovery apparently mapped out by Eurozone leaders at an emergency summit. The deep pockets of international investors like China invoked as Europe's financial saviours, but not secured yet. Today, though, that optimism and market gains generated were wiped out as the region was embroiled in a fresh crisis. The Greek president's surprise call for a referendum on the bailout has created turmoil on stock markets. It's also left his own government on the brink of collapse as politicians from his own party rejected the move and called on him to hold an early general election. There is some flash photography in this report from our political editor, Gary Gibbon.
Democracy in its highest form, the Greek Prime Minister called it, but his proposal to hold a referendum and ask the people on the streets what they think of the massive cuts to Greece's welfare state struck fear and horror in Eurozone political leaderships. They believe that Greek opposition to the austerity measures, including massive pay and pension cuts, means the whole deal agreed in outline with the banks last week to write off half of Greece's privately held debt is now in severe doubt. That made markets nosedive, wiping billions off share prices and pension pots across Europe and beyond. Traders believe that if Greece walks away from the debt deal, already weak banks will have to write off billions more in debt. They worry Italy, Spain could end up doing the same, and that the Eurozone could implode.
If Greece is really rejecting the rescue package, the European rescue package, that it might blow up the whole Euro system.
The Greek guys cannot stay in the Eurozone. They have to go out. Otherwise, I see an end of the Eurozone itself.
In Paris and Berlin, there were emergency government meetings. President Sarkozy phoned Chancellor Merkel to agree a joint statement, saying they wanted full implementation of last week's bailout deal as quickly as possible. Both were ambushed by the Greek Prime Minister's decision. Angela Merkel called Mr Papandreou. He's agreed to a meeting over dinner tomorrow in Cannes with the leaders who did so much to shape that deal. Demonstrators were preparing a welcome for them and the other world leaders attending the G20 summit starting in Cannes on Thursday. This was supposed to be the moment the Eurozone countries convinced China, the US and others that they'd got a grip of their crisis. In the last hour, President Sarkozy spoke of his shock at the Greek referendum announcement.
Cette annonce a surpris toute l'Europe.
This announcement surprised all of Europe, he said. France notes that the agreement reached last Thursday of all 17 members of the Eurozone is the only possible route to take to resolve the Greek debt problem. To seek the approval of the people, President Sarkozy said, is always a legitimate step. But the solidarity of all Eurozone countries cannot be effective unless everyone agrees to the necessary measures. In Athens, as the cabinet met in emergency session, it was announced that the defence minister had suddenly sacked Greece's senior military chiefs. In a country ruled by the army until 1973, it looks like an attempt to head off a possible military coup. The Prime Minister George Papandreou may not survive this evening's cabinet meeting. Greece might get a snap election instead of a referendum, but it would amount to much the same. A judgment by the Greek people on the debt deal so many appear to hate.